our children won't be prepared if we don't start preparing them for the future. And preparing them for the future means they have to start thinking differently.
Yeah.
Mental health aspect, preparing our children for what's to come, they're not going to be competitive, not only locally, but globally. And so I need your help in looking into your schools, your education, what you have done, to give me ideas. We have a foundational understanding that we need to reform education. We need to save our Black and brown people, but we need to be specific and intentional about Black and brown boys to get them on the right path.
Well, Mr. Adams, no, thank you for that. And one of the things I you were actually going in the direction that I was going to ask my next question was, oftentimes we talk about school reform and some of the smartest people in the room, but usually it doesn't include the principals. It doesn't include those people who are in front of the children and in front of the school community as much as they are. So can I ask, how could you infuse more of the opinions, the expertise, as well as the knowledge base of the principals here to kind of help you in your cause to change education here in New York?
We've marginalized Black and brown educators all over the country. They'll give us a school, they may give us, another school, but, there's no real duplication of the success. We have some great Black and brown educators that all of a sudden, as soon as they start improving the system, next thing you know, they're brought up on internal charges. Next thing you know, they're trying to get them moved out of their schools. They did it to George Leonard. They didn't want to give support to David Banks and Eagle Academy. I was able to get him $3 million to push through his agenda. A lot of my educators and principals in Brooklyn, I've partnered $200 million into our public school system. I take my energy from my principals. We need a consortium of Black and brown educators nationally to use this moment of Black Lives Matter to say that you are going to push forward the agenda nationally. I think that you should demand a meeting of a solid group of Black and brown educators, principals, to sit down with the President of the United States and Biden. He just came in, and you need to come forward with a clear agenda of what you expect in our schools. We have all these experts that is absence of you, and you need to be forceful. That's what 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care was about. We were Black and brown law enforcement officers that said, listen, you can't have a conversation about law enforcement and you don't hear our voice. That's what we need in education. We need Black and brown educators, particularly executive principals, to step up and demand you don't do anything in education without coming to us and asking, what is your thought? And that's missing. It's missing here in New York, and it's missing across the country. You're too good at what you do to be relegated to a position that you got to wait for the buffoonery that's being handed down for people who don't see the real impact on these children.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Dr. Asia Johnson, also she's a principal here in the Bronx. She's the one who introduced me to your folks. And so, Asia, I know you had a question for Mr. Adams.
Yeah, I just had a question. One of the challenges I think we have, speaking from the high school perspective, is especially with city agencies, because I think I asked this question on the first time you and I met, because you're working with Tracy and I know Tracy. And one of the challenges we have is with the city agencies, although they're all city agencies, they don't correspond with DOE. They all act as individual agencies. And some of the challenges we've had, and some of my high school colleagues could probably attest to this, unless I'm out here by myself, because the Bronx is very different from Brooklyn. But, challenges with like kids, with summer youth, right? We want our kids to have jobs, but we also want them to be able to recover those credits. And what ends up happening is that they have to choose of either I'm going to go to summer school and get the credits that I need in order to be on track for graduation, or I'm going to get this money that I need to keep me off of the streets. And most of the kids will choose to work, which means they're not going to go to school, which means they're not going to graduate on time. And so while we try to advocate with the agencies to say, Department of Youth Justice, DYCD, and say like, hey, is there a way that we can find a system that says kids have summer school and they can do both, right? I can create a schedule that'll allow a kid to go to class, take summer school classes from like 8 to 12. And can they come work for you from 1 to 5 or whatever it is? And they're just like, no, the kid is either working or they're going to school, or issues with ACS that's like, look, they're 17. I don't have anything to do with that, And so if we talk about a community and a sense of community, we have to make sure that all of these agencies doesn't think that they're the most important and that the older kids don't need more attention. Because I'm sure if we pull out some data, we'll see that the incarceration rates are coming obviously from the teenagers in our high schools and things of that nature. And mostly is because the agencies where we're supposed to be providing support, even from down to the PAL where I am, I speak to the director like, hey, I want to run an after school program for my kids here because I don't have a gym in my building. And they're like, oh, it's only for the middle school kids. I'm like, you don't have any middle school kids coming to your program. I'm trying to keep my kids off of the street, but you're telling me you only want certain kids to come to these programs. So we're funding programs that's saying they don't want the kind of kids that we're giving them, which doesn't make any sense to me too. So I'm just wondering, is there any plan on how to make sure that all of those agencies are connecting and are all on the same page?
I love that, Dr. Johnson. You are dead on. And if you ever hear my analysis, our city, and that's why I use the term as dysfunctional. We don't have a clear mission where we're all tied to the same. We operate as silos. And instead of figuring out how do we operate together to reach the same goal, everyone is territorial and everyone is operating in a silo. I started an initiative here in the city called Extended Use Project, where we were telling, I like to say, mom and pop nonprofits who wanted to do just simple things, help children in tutorial services, help teach life skills, rites of passage program. But they were going to schools and try to use space, and we were charging them these exorbitant fees to do so. It just didn't make any sense. They didn't have the money to pay for it. So I was able to identify $1 million and say, listen, if you are willing to volunteer your time to help a young person, we're going to pick up the fees for the school safety agents and all the other insurance to show how we need to be using our schools as resource centers. And if there's a gym that's open and you're trying to keep young people up the streets, you need to have access to that gym. If there's a shop class that's open and we're trying to deal with unemployment, but I have a group I was able to partner with that would teach HVAC training, HVAC training. These were jobs that were paying $75,000 to $80,000 a year. They needed a space to do it. Why are we navigating a space when we have so many schools that we can do this using, the auditoriums and other spaces to do the training? So is how do I come to you as an educator? And instead of saying to you, here's what you need, coming to you and asking, what do you need? That's where we have to go. And then utilize the full asset of our city to give you what you need to save these children. And that's the focus that we need. Let me tell you something. If white children were failing at 65%, the way black and brown children are, you'll see riots in the street. Gotta unmute yourself, Dennis.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Adams. Thank you. Dr. Riley, who had the hand up? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the next speaker to the floor is Malik, Dr. Malik Smalls.
Hey, good afternoon, Brother Adams. Pleasure to see you, as always. Yeah, and just so everyone knows, my school is one of the schools to get a significant grant to build out a hydroponics lab, and so I'm looking forward to seeing that project when it gets completed. I'm very happy about that. The question I have for you: there's all kind of conversations around culturally responsive education, right? And they're conversations and they're lip service, right? But there's nothing that mandates it happens. There are no standards that govern it. So as far as I'm concerned, it's just lip service. So as mayor, what will you do to ensure that there's some sort of mandate and standards that govern culturally responsive education in every school?
And I don't know the answer to that. I need for you to tell me how to implement something the right way. Because I've never been in the classroom, and I don't have that arrogancy. I like to say the Dr. Jordan arrogancy. Just because you're forward on the Bulls don't mean you could be on the Black Sox and also play outfield. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know, and I go to people who know. And so if this body here can say, Eric, this is how we can implement a real plan that have the cultural competency that we're looking for, I'm welcome to that. And I've sat down with several different Black educated groups that's also looking to assist in that. I would like to connect you with them so we can come out with one solid document that we can institute. I'm on board. I know what needs to be done. I don't want it to be verbal. I want it to be actual. And I need how it needs to be implemented in a real way so it won't be just cosmetic. I'm open to learning.
Those who control the images, those who control the history, control the minds of our children. And if our children are not enriched and rooted in their own history, they go out into the world trying to exist in someone else's reality rather than being rooted in their own. So it's something I'm passionate about, and I'm looking forward to seeing it being actual in schools and being more than just a conversation. So thank you, and I look forward to working with you when you become mayor.
Yeah. And Dr. Small, there's something that you said is so important, that a part of the journey is we have to really start digging into how what many of these great neurologists are showing how our brains operate. If we're going to really change what we're doing, we have the neuroplasticity of our brains allow us to rewire our brain. Physically, we can rewire our brains. And we can change those synaptic connections that we have received throughout the years that makes our young people and our babies feel inferior. And in order to do that, the books must change. The conversation must change. The images in the schools must change. We're talking about rewiring the brains of people, not only the students, which is interesting, but we have to actually rewire the synaptic connections of teachers. And you know what? Even parents. I can't tell you how many times I've heard parents say, listen, I just want, Kim to graduate. I said, no, we have to, it's not about just surviving. It's about thriving. And we have to rethink what our possibilities are. And if we're not reinforcing that, when we have our children at the most, and we're shaping their opinions and belief, then we're never going to get there. It can't be surface, it can't be cosmetic. And that's why I'm really pleased with this group of neurologists. They've blown my mind and opened me up to the potential and possibilities in education if we do it right and not just in a cosmetic way.
Who's next, Dr. Riley?
Yes, the next one is Fia.
Deputy Davis.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Adams.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I have seen you speak. We've been in the same places. I'm sure when outside was open, we shook hands several times.
Every time you speak, I just sit in awe and just take notes.
Thank you for that. So a few points I wanted to share with you. I served as a principal for 15 years, and most recently I've become deputy superintendent of a district in the Bronx. And there are three things I wanted to share with you about education as you walk into being mayor of New York City. One, to think about this idea of voice. Right before I jumped out the window and decided to take this management offer, I said out loud, and then I couldn't take it back, I need to get in the room when policy is being made. And I heard it, and I knew that it was going to alter the universe around me. And I kind of covered my mouth like, did you say that out loud? Did you let that out? But my point is, when you think about your position as mayor, you have to hear from people who are serving as leaders. So taking the time to meet with principals, borough by borough, because what's happening in Brooklyn and the struggle, some of it may look the same in the Bronx, but the reality of leaders may be different. So meeting with them borough by borough, so you're not hearing from the top of the food chain, you are hearing from the infantry. What are they experiencing day by day? The next point, thinking about management. So I imagine the top of the food chain. I happen to be, I guess, middle management as a deputy superintendent, but really borough by borough, sitting down with superintendents and or deputies and a mixture of people so that you hear what are they experiencing? Because I'm learning in the last 6 months what it means to be management in the Department of Education. It's a very different experience. I choose it so that I expand the impact of how I serve children, but it's very different. And then lastly, there are things we have learned in this virtual education reality. And I don't believe that we should throw it all away. We know that we need our children in school, that the best place for them is with us. But for a few of them, a fraction of them and their teachers, the best place is at home. So how do we learn from what's happening right now and think about modifying how school looks so that we serve the needs of all of our children, learning the benefits of this virtual experience? And so if you would consider and keep those three things in mind and keep leaders and bring them to the table so that you hear the voice from the people who have to implement and execute and serve our children firsthand.
Well said, and I thank you for that. Like I stated, every time you speak, I just take notes, First, I think that, and we need to do that, and that is the mistake I don't want to make. And I have been spending so much time, as I stated, the last 2.5 years of sitting down with people who have leaned into their craft. When you lean into your craft, it reveals the secrets. And if you have not been in a classroom, if you have not dealt with what it is to, really navigate the challenges of educating children, these babies get to the school. If learning 1 and 1 equals 2 was all you had to do, all these children would be geniuses. But by the time these babies get to the classroom, they have gone through so much trauma.
Yes.
And I believe that I have been blessed to come across some amazing educators who are committed and dedicated. And I have been calling on them, speaking with them. And I want you, this group that are here now, to be part of this team. We have a couple of months. I want to walk in with a real plan of execution. We have some stuff that, a group of leaders, like I said, David Leonard has been amazing. Our superintendents in Brooklyn have been giving me pieces, and I would love for you to do the same so we can walk in. We're going to have 4 years. I'm not going to do the David Dinkins model, my mentors there, but we're doing it in the next 4 years. No, this is a Matthew 21:12 moment for me. Jesus went to people and saw them doing wrong with his temple. He didn't sit there at the table. He turned the table over. I'm going to City Hall to turn the table over. And I want to be armed with smart things to do that came from folks like yourself, who's on the ground on how do we go about instituting real change and empowering folks like you that understand how we can make some real impacts in our industry. The other thing I have at improving education. We're going to move those numbers of Black and brown students in the Department of Education. I'm telling you, we are going to move those numbers.
Thank you for that. And thank you for your vision. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Fia. Hello, everyone. Just want to let you know my name is Dr. Action. That's my name on OSG. Just to welcome you all to OSG. For those of you who would like to speak, at the bottom of your screen, because some people are like, how do you raise your hand? You'll see a little face. There was a little plus next to it where you see breakout rooms, share your screen. Just click on that little face icon and you'll see raise hand, and your hands will come up and you'll just be right in line based on how you raised your hand. So I know, April, you raised your hand, but you're going to go right after Miss Shine, 3 9s and 9. Come on, Shine.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And hi, Eric. Good to see you again.
As well.
So, yes, my school is lovely, known as Shine 399 in Flatbush, Brooklyn, District 17. But I'm Principal Lakeisha Williams. And so I definitely agree with everything that my colleagues have shared, you know, my OSG family, and even piggybacking off of what you shared. And so the thing that's prevalent in my mind at this time is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Before we can do anything academically for our children, we have to make sure that they are taken care of. And the reality is, when we look at the demographics of the children and the families who reside in our schools, there's a lot of work that needs to be done if we want to make sure that our children are achieving at the rates in which we want them to achieve. So when my sister spoke earlier, Dr. Johnson, about what she experiences at the high school level, I'm here at the elementary school level. This is year 3 for me being a principal, not even a complete 3 years yet. But I'm telling you, I have made my school a community school without it being an official community school. And that's a shame on the system, that we're not ensuring that every school in this city has what the school needs, right? We know that our children need full-time guidance counselors. We know that we need special education teachers. I'm still begging, and I'm calling it begging, right? I'm still begging and fighting to make sure that my children have a full comprehensive after-school program. There are things that should be a given for all children. And it is our job, right, which is why I'm so happy to be a part of OSG. This is our mission, to make sure that it becomes the norm for all children. When we're talking about a population in many of our schools where we're addressing not only the academic needs of our children, but also the social-emotional needs, right, of the children, of the families, of the staff, as you shared earlier. You know, many of our schools, we work with a lot of families that reside in STH shelters. So we know that there's so many wraparound services that need to be in place in our schools to make sure that we can address the variety of needs that our children face. So oftentimes, you know, I get called on the carpet like, hey, you got to make sure you keep the main thing. The kids got to pass the test. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. The kids have to pass the test, but the kids got to first know that they are loved. Right? So Dr. Malik spoke earlier about culturally responsive education. I'm also the principal that went viral with the Brown Girl video that I did with my children. And I had people literally threatening my life because how dare I affirm our Black and brown girls. So there's so many different layers of work and support that we need in every single school. And my hope is that there should be no other principal that comes behind me that has to literally come in and do this work at the ground level in which I had to do it. Because then we're doing a disservice to our children, to our families, and everybody across the city.
Well said, and I thank you. I thank you for that. And I forgot who said it, that there are many successful things that are happening already, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel, or we don't have to destroy which is already successful. There's so many. I look over at the Boys and Girls High School some of the things that are taking place there, with Allison and some of the team members there, what they are doing, everything, like you were talking about, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. How do I sit in school if I feel my clothing are not clean, or if my stomach is growling, or I can't have the basic products. I don't have deodorant at home, So the schools must be more than a place where someone is passing the test, And when Allison had a washing machine, she took this food pantry that was amazing for these children, where they were able to shop with dignity. Mm-hmm. But then she tried to put in a washing machine so the children could wash their clothing. And the Department of Education
what's wrong with
put through all of this madness. Well, it's too difficult to run lines. I am not trying to hear that.
Rocky, want me to take
what do I give my principals, who I believe you're the quarterbacks of our community? Every agency in our community should be listening to the calls that you are calling from the huddle. So if you need DYCD, as it was just indicated, to alter their summer youth programs, they need to be listening to the play that you call. If you need the police department to come and sit down with you once a week to find out what's going on in the community ahead of time so that you can prepare and make sure your campus is safe, you need to be, when you pick up that phone and call that local commander, he needs to be running his butt over there to listen to what you have to say. If you need the DSNY to make sure the school is clean out front so the children can have a healthy, clean environment, you should be able to get them there. You're the quarterback. You're the play caller for the entire community. And then I need the connectivity between my elementary, my middle school, and my high school, so that you all know each other. I need your faces up. All of my churches should have principal days. So when you come in with your team, so they can see who you are and say, these are the people who are nurturing our children. We need to change what we've done to educators in this city. I don't know anywhere else on the globe that put down educators the way we do in this city and in this country. The game is going to change. I'm going to give you the power to save our children. If you don't educate, you'll incarcerate.
Thank you for that. So, Mr. Adams, I know I had spoke with your assistant earlier, and she had mentioned that you might have a hard leave at 5 o'clock or something around that. So if that's still the case, we'll try to speed it up a little bit. But, again, this is an amazing conversation. And I know no one here wants it to end. So do you still have a few more minutes?
Yeah, I don't know what the time it is. They control my life. I wake up in the morning, just look at the schedule.
It's 4:48.
Yeah, I got 5 more minutes before I hop on. I think they have me doing a live television interview.
Okay. All right. So go ahead, Dr. Action, real quick. Who's next?
April's next.
Hey, Eric, how are you?
Well, how are you doing?
Good. I'm better now. It's always better. It's always good to see you.
Thank you.
And just first, you're in a room with amazing people. OSG is something special. And I think that OSG as a collective can be just very integral in those next steps when you become mayor. Not if you become mayor, when you become mayor. Just to piggyback on everything that was said, there have been plans presented to the DOE, specifically around how to make agencies more accountable for working in collaboration with us and not in silos. And the only person that was finally open to developing an entire department when I presented the plan was Dorita Gibson. And then soon after, before the plan can take off, Dorita, I want to say left, but was sort of ushered, in another direction. And that's typically what happens, right? When we start to go against the grain, when we start to talk about not what's needed, but changing the policies that have been written that have prevented the most simplest things from happening. When those conversations start to happen, it makes people uncomfortable, and then you're ushered out or you're silenced. So I'm really looking forward to when you become mayor, looking at those policies, because what is definitely needed is reevaluating the policies that prevent ACS and incarcerate. Like, we're not talking to each other. Yet, when something heinous is done, when we have a young man who involved in a shootout with another person accidentally takes the life of an officer who is out there to save lives, when we have the mayor sit up there and run his pedigree and talk about how he was born to drug addicted parents and by 13 he was a criminal, that's embarrassing. Because what that young man did is he sat in our schools. He sat in our schools from kindergarten all the way up into the age he was old enough to drop out and not show up anymore. So he made poor decisions, but we failed him all along the way, because ACS was involved at an early time. And what did we do? How do we work together to alter his path? And there are so many others, and I appreciate everyone up here, and Allison and I, we work specifically with that population, and the answers are there. It's just, what are we doing about it? What's the power being provided to us to save our children, because they're not being saved.
Well said, April, and you're right, and we can save them by being more proactive, identifying those early stages of trauma.
I'm not here. Neglect.
Talking to these young people, something as simple as dyslexia screening throughout our entire school system. It only costs $2,000 per school. But we know at the beginning of the school year that 30% of young people who are dyslexic are going to end up on writers. I mean, we know this. I continue to say, and I really hope it resonates with you, there's no desire to save these children. These children are considered dispensable, and there's no real desire to do so. I think many of you who are on the call, first of all, it's extremely impressive that, you have 62 educators on the call today. It's just saying how much you are engaged. I thought I saw my brother, Dr. Blake, is on. He has been an unbelievable advisor around education for me and so many of you. I've learned so much from Black and brown educators through this last few years that I'm ready to take this on, and I know we're going to make a change.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. Thank you for being you. And for those of you who are not familiar with Eric, he didn't even get to tell you his story, his whole story. But I'll tell you, it's been a pleasure and an honor to support Eric throughout the years in many facets of what he's done. So we have the right guy right here. So thank you.
Well, Mr. Adams, again, I know you're about to leave, but I just want to take the next 60 seconds. Good friend of mine, brother, Dame Dash, wanted to say hello to you. I know he's been in touch with your people as well. Dan, come on and say what's up to Eric before he has to bounce up out of here. We'll continue afterwards. Hey, Dan.
I'm right here. I love everything you're saying. And I love how it's looking. It's this is great. And I just want to let you know that if they co-sign, you got my 100% co-sign, and anything that I can do to help, please utilize. I like to use my leverage for the right reasons, and these are the right reasons. And just make sure when you get there, I can just tell you the most influential thing for me was, because I'm a guy that wasn't such a believer in the education system, was to see all of these Black principals and know they even existed. I didn't know that they existed, and I couldn't even imagine how much they even care. And I think they should be celebrated. So just make sure there's once you get there, there's always a little section for them just to showcase how dope they are and what they do. But I do appreciate you. And again, use my network. Anything you need, let me know.
I love that. And let me say this, and I appreciate that, but you said something that's very important, Brother Dash. Listen, you ladies and gentlemen, you can't be a tree that falls in the forest and no one is around and don't make a sound. It's time for you to get on Broadway. You need to really not allow anything in this country to happen on education without you doing op-eds, doing press conferences, or doing upfront. They need to know that all these doctors on here, I feel like I'm on General Hospital, man. I got so much credentials. They need to, we need to see you. And the DOE does not control what you do off a DOE time. Under the banner of OSG, you should wake up every day, go through the newspaper and see what education issues are, and you should respond to them and have a position on them. Nothing is more powerful than the voice of an educator. Nothing. People, if you go to a party somewhere, as soon as someone hears that you are a teacher, a principal, a superintendent, everyone in the room stops and listens. You have so much influence and power. And let me conclude with this. I'm on a journey, I remember being arrested in 103rd Precinct, and Mom coming to that precinct, holding her Bible and leaning on her cane, and all those cops laughing at her, looking at her clothing and making fun of her. And I said, I sold Mommy into emotional slavery. And I said, I'm going to buy her freedom back. I'm going to do what's needed to be done to buy her out of the slavery I put her in. And I went on a 4-payment installment plan. The first payment when I became a captain in that same police department. The second payment when I became a state senator. She saw me break the law, enforce the law. Then I went to Albany to write the law. Third payment came when I became the first Black president. I'm going to be paid in full in 2021 this year when I become the mayor. It's about why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for every mother that watched her baby go through a system that broke them. Every mother that saw Black mothers die 12 times the rate as white women in maternal morbidity. Every mother that no one wanted to listen to, although they were able to clean the houses of people, they could not live on that same block. This is a real fight. The mothers that, when I woke up today after they shot up my car and walked it out of my house, and saw all of these mothers that didn't know me touching my building and praying for me. This is not something I'm doing because I need a job. I'm doing this because I know I can do the best job of doing this. This is our moment. Let's not waste this opportunity. I need you to engage. I need you to be part of this fight. And we need to be bold, unapologetic about it. I am not apologizing one damn day.
I know that's right.
That our children are going to be empowered. They said I couldn't do this. They said, don't worry about Eric Adams. He'll never be able to raise the money to run citywide. Not only did I raise the money, I'll raise everyone in the field. I'm the only candidate that has $8 million ready to gear up my army to fight.
And Eric, before you run out, hey, Eric. This is Jabari's sister Simone. I know you know who I am, but before you run, I know you got 60 seconds. We have your counterpart mayor from Mount Vernon, and I would be remiss if before you ran out, if my BFF in my head, I know Mayor Sean is on one of these pages. Mayor Sean, if you could just close us out with Eric. I can't find you.
Okay, I'm right here.
There you go. And just I call this 60 seconds from one mayor to another.
All right, so
Borough President and future Mayor Adams, I just want you to know, I hope you understand that you didn't just stumble across this group, but they are powerful and dynamic. They're not only educators, but they're influencers, and they have direct access, so when you call on them, make sure it's not just for education, but they understand the mental, the emotional, and the social conditions. They understand the need for affordable housing. They are boots on the ground. They understand the school to prison pipeline and reentry needs, community empowerment, economic and social mobility. And so while they're educators, they cut across so many different facets of life as they are dealing with our families on an everyday and a daily basis. So please make sure you take advantage of everything that they have to offer, because this is a group that is much more powerful than you can imagine. I enjoyed your conversation. I just took myself on camera to do some things in the back, but I've been here for a while. We wish you much success, and we're here for it. Like you said, make me clap to this. Paid in full.
Thank you. And let's do this again. I look forward to a follow-up conversation, and let's continue to move forward. This is our time. We got this. Thank you. Appreciate you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
so much. We appreciate you. Be safe. Thank you.
Hey, Dennis. Hey, team. Hey, OSG family.
Absolutely. Well, you go nowhere.
Man, sister, what's happening?
Nowhere, man.
Hey, Simone. I haven't been on the Zooms, but I have definitely been with the OSG family, whether it was with April, whether it was with Simone, whether I was doing something, Oh my goodness, this is my deputy police commissioner. Wait, sorry. I'm sorry. I'll call him back. But just doing things, with the members of OSG. So I apologize. It's been a while, but I definitely miss you guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Miss you too.
Likewise, Mayor. Hey, Dame, I know we have is Royce there?
Yeah, I think so. Royce, you there?
But real quick, Dame, before where's Jacko? I know Jacko had a question that she wanted to raise, but I think what's really important is when we talk about accountability and why schools are doing what we're doing, I think everything that Eric Adams has talked about, we already been doing. We're already ahead of the game. We're already with the food pantries and the food banks and the laundry mats and everything else. So it kind of lets you know that 10 months ago, when we started OSG and we were having this conversation, that we were able to set forth an agenda of what we were going to do, and we are doing it. And as Dame always pointed out, like, people are watching, people are listening to what we're saying and what we're doing. And for Eric Adams to come in and say pretty much the same thing that's been going on with OSG, especially in the past 5 to 6 months, is extremely, extremely dope. So now that was powerful having him. And I think, those of us who understand what he's up against by way of running for mayor, it kind of goes hand in hand with something that I wanted James to kind of talk about a little bit, because last week we brought on Andre Carson, congressman from Indiana, and there was something that transpired in the lights of what happened, in the shadows of what happened last week at the Capitol. And Dame, if you could just kind of talk real brief about that, so that we know how to also now cover Eric Adams the same way.
Yeah. Well, that thing happened at the Capitol, and while it was happening, Andre Carson was there. And, he was texting me and sending me videos like, this shit is real. And, a couple of days later, he sends me a list. And I guess, one of these white supremacists had put him on the top of a hit list of all these different congressmen that they were going to kill. And he was number one on it. So, he called to let us know. We immediately put the commission, got on the Zoom, and we just wanted to make sure he knew that whatever way that we could help protect him, we will. And we wanted to understand how he was being protected and making sure we understood how we could make sure he was okay. But at the end of the day, at least make sure he has a platform so people understand exactly what he's going through. But he did end up on CNN yesterday, and he definitely gave the commission a shout out. And, we're constantly understanding that when we're going to be helping, we become a target, but we're not victims. You know, if you want to make us a target, then you become the target. And it's not just one person you have to deal with, it's all of us. And it's an intellectual army. And that's way more ill than the physical one that, you know, these people have been trying to use for so many years that they've been trying to hide, that's now been showcased unapologetically, undeniably. So, you know, this is a war. And again, we're not victims. And our brain will protect us. And if you have a problem with one of us, in my brain, you have a problem with all of us. You know? So the same applies for Eric. That's a black man, and him visually being the person that's running New York and having a direct connection to us. That's what real power to help is, you know. And it's just coming to y'all like us like magnets, and the people are starting to be one of us. You know, have, like you said, that's why it wasn't nothing I could say. I couldn't question him. He was saying exactly what we saying. So it's great. And then to have a mayor talking to another mayor, black, beautiful, beautiful, you know? So yeah, that's what happened.
Then we live on IG, or we live on your IG day.
Yeah.
All right.
If you want another amazing video with the one and only Dame Dash, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.